Welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast with Scott McKenzie. Scott is a passionate industry professional dedicated to transferring cutting-edge, industry-focused innovations and trends while highlighting the men and women who keep the world moving. So put on your hard hat, grab your work boots, and let's go.
All right, welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast. I'm Scott McKenzie, and I'm so glad that you are here. And this is to all the industrial professionals around the world. I know you guys are busy. You got big things to do. Thank you very much for joining. We've got a wonderful show, definitely this week. And, this is where the industrial professionals come to talk. And I'm just so passionate. I love the industrial life. And so thank you very much. Once again, let's get this show on the road. And I appreciate every single one of you. Okay, that's wonderful. I really appreciate absolutely what you guys do, and thank you very much. Because, I was thinking about this. The reason for this show, the reason for this podcast, the reason that I get the opportunity to talk to industrial professionals, because it's all about know, like, and trust, right? We want to be able to highlight these professionals, and you get to know them, like them, trust them. They know what they're doing. They're imparting their wisdom, as well as that operational integrity, that ability to be able to keep that asset up and running all the time. And then finally, of course, you got to fill that funnel. You've got to fill that funnel with opportunities, bring it in. And these are all the tools and techniques and strategies that you can apply today, tomorrow, whenever, that will help your business go on to the next level. So this week's podcast includes a gentleman by the name, and I will really work at this. His name is Dan Konstantinovsky. How about that one? I normally butcher names, but I think I got that one right. And he is a marketing whiz, and I'm just so excited that he is a part of the Industrial Talk podcast and imparts all that wonderful wisdom. But before we get going, of course, we got to talk about our tailgate.
Tailgate Talk number 1.
All right. Some of you might know out there that I'm also the host of Reliability Radio. That's reliabilityradio.com. And it's a wonderful opportunity to be able to highlight the professionals, the ones that are truly passionate about reliability, asset management, maintenance. And that platform is with reliabilityweb.com. I highly recommend that you check it out. If you're in that profession or considering that profession, you need to check out. That's reliabilityradio.com. And those are great podcasts. And I got a slew of new podcasts coming from the Vibration Institute. So you stay tuned, and we'll keep providing that great content.
Number 2.
Okay, so I've got a series out there, and the series is called Business Beatitudes, and it's not a podcast, but it is more of a blog. It's out on the website industrialtalk.com. That's industrialtalk.com, and if you're friends with me out on LinkedIn, of course, I post out there too as well, and that really talks about humble leadership, the beauty of that. And the power, of course, of humble leadership. That is the beautiful attitudes for industrial leaders. So anyway, check it out, because I think it's an easy read. Don't get me wrong. It's not that difficult, and it's pretty quick, but I think it imparts some great information. I think that could help you out.
Number 3.
All right, we've got events that we've got to sort of highlight before we get into the interview, and this is with Reliability Web. And then I'm going to be gone next week. I'm going to be in Orlando, Lake Buena Vista, going to the Maximo World, and we're going to be broadcasting from that location. And then September 24th through the 27th, and this is Euro Maintenance. If some of my Euro listeners are considering going to a conference, you need to consider going to Euro Maintenance. That's 4.0, and that is September 24th through the 27th, and that is 2018, and that is in Belgium. And I'm pulling up this information. I think it's Antwerp, so I want to make sure that it's Belgium, and it's in Antwerp. So nonetheless, you got to go to that one if you are in Europe. And then IMC 2018 is right around the corner, and that's December 10th through the 14th. Plenty of time. I was there last year, and it was a fabulous event. And I am so honored to be able to be there this year because it's really a good time. So I highly recommend that you consider that. And that is, once again, IMC 2018. That is Bonita Springs, Florida. That's December 10th through the 14th. Look it up. Go out to reliabilityweb.com. Find out information. Okay, now on to the interview. This gentleman, Dan Konstantinovsky, he is a strategic marketing guy, and he's with R.H. Blake. And because I'm so passionate about marketing, I'm passionate about branding, I'm passionate about filling that funnel. This gentleman has a great story to tell, good tactics to consider using, and, of course, his contact information. So, nonetheless, this is Dan Konstantinovsky, and he's going to be definitely sharing with you all what he knows about marketing and what's important, and maybe, just maybe, how you can get your business back on track. So, enjoy, and see you later. Hey, Dan, welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast. I'm so glad that you were able to put this on your calendar and talk to our listeners about what you do and why you're such a special guy.
I don't know about special, but thank you very much for the opportunity, Scott.
Oh, hey, I get to listen to great people. I get to it's wonderful, and I know that the listeners appreciate it most definitely. Your last name, Konstantinovsky.
Oh, you got it. I mean, that's about as close as you're going to get off of a first try like that.
Check it out. Now, you're with R.H. Blake. You've been there for a couple of years, and instead of me trying to go through your information or your profile or who you are, let's give an overview for the listeners out there of what R.H. is all about and why it's important for this this interview to happen.
Sure. So R.H. Blake, we're a business-to-business marketing agency that focuses exclusively on the industrial and manufacturing space. I've been around more than 30 years. Really primarily focused on three things: strategy, content, and digital marketing. And and obviously I think some of those topics are maybe near and dear to the hearts of your listeners. So I definitely think it could make sense for us to connect.
Oh, absolutely. Because I think one of the reasons why I'm passionate about this platform, outside of the fact that I get to meet great people like you, but more importantly, the internet's never going to go away. The technology is always going to advance, and if you're not in the game, if you're not actively in the game and seeking out answers and solutions, then you're going to miss the boat, and you're going to miss great opportunities to fill that funnel with revenue. That's the bottom line, and I like it. Strategy, content, and digital marketing. Did I capture that right?
That's exactly right.
That is very cool. Okay, first off, we're gonna get a little real with you, right? We're not gonna just say, okay, it's who you are, why you're so special, and what you're all about, but more, and then we'll venture into those 3 points that we did talk about. Okay, so if I were to ask you, Dan, big long last name, what is your leadership style?
It's teamwork. So it's really a collaborative style. And I think a big reason for that is I grew up playing team sports, and I think I picked up on that. And that's kind of how I tried to lead the team here at RH Blake.
Now, and have you had great results and I mean, there's so many different types of style out there, and I do like the teamwork because you're going to have to do a collaborative type of solution focus, because if you're truly in the digital world, and you're trying to develop the strategies and the content, it is definitely a teamwork type of environment. Now, if I came to you, Dan, and why would I want to come to you? What questions would I have? I have pain. And whatever that pain is, I want to get out of that pain. And let's say I know how to change out a pump or whatever the industrial focus is, but I'm not getting the traction that I need. Why is that and so important, and why do I need to come to you to deal with that pain?
Most of our clients come to us because they don't know what to do how to really what else they can do or what to do and how to prioritize their marketing program. As you alluded to, there are lots of different technologies changing quicker than ever. There are lots of different companies all saying that they're the best and, hey, you should invest with us. We know where your buyers are. Many different opportunities to invest your marketing dollar, but figuring out which ones are right for you, that's a key question that most of our clients have, and that's usually why they come to us initially.
So if I came to you and I just didn't know how to verbally communicate it to you, I just feel like I'm missing a boat. Do you help me through that? Would you help listeners go through that?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the first questions that we would ask is, who's your perfect dollar or a perfect buyer? If you've got one phone call to make, you're a sales guy, who's your most likely customer? Who's the customer you have the best story to tell to? And we'd work our way backwards from there. So once we figure out kind of who your best ideal customer is, well, how do they buy from you? Where do they learn about the types of offerings that you sell? Who else helps them make the decision within their organization? Just really get a clear picture of that target persona that they're looking to sell to.
So what I hear you saying is that, okay, I'm going to create that image of that target market, because I guarantee you right now, companies have never really done that. I would suspect, because that requires you sitting down and you're trying to define. So are you saying I'm going to be trying to define that target market that you need to focus in on like a laser beam?
That's exactly right. And many times, and myself included. So up until 2 years ago, I was a marketing manager for an industrial firm, and that's my background, is kind of on the other side. We as manufacturers tend to think we know our customers, and we know our customers, but it's through the filter of our company, through the filter of our salespeople, through the filter of our distribution channel, where we provide some value, I think, is through doing a little bit of research initially up front from a customer's perspective, some of the voice of customer research, to hear what they think about you, to hear what they think about your competitors, how they feel, what resonates with them, where do they go to make decisions. It really helps complete the story about that target customer that we usually initially start the conversation with.
So you do some market research and you focus in on that customer, right? Is that what you're saying?
That's absolutely right. And usually, and this isn't survey type of questions. We don't send out a 10 question survey, yes or no, click. These are in-depth conversations about your customer's business and your customer's business. What's driving change in their business. All of us are experiencing huge transformational type of changes in our business, and getting a deeper understanding of what's going on with your customers is really the first step in figuring out where to invest your next marketing dollar. And that's something that we help with. So those conversations are either in person, over the phone, and you usually want to ask the 5 why, that whole 5 why process, where a customer will tell you what's going on in their business, and then you dig deeper and deeper, and then you get to some type of an insight that you can translate to your into marketing. How do you leverage that?
That's interesting. And let me ask this question: how do you define success? If I came to you, I'm Acme Ditch Diggers, whatever it might be, and I'm looking to invest. I'm looking to use you as a way of succeeding in where I'm at. How do you define success? How would you say, if you came with us, boom, this is what we would talk about?
I actually don't. It's a great question, but I don't think I would define it. I would kind of turn the tables back on the customer and ask them, hey, we're sitting here a year from now in this room, and everything's been wildly successful. What does a year from now look like for you? And for customer, it's very different. Some want to improve margins, some want more mind share from their distributors, some want to introduce a product that helps do X. So it really depends on the client. And obviously, once we figure out what that success looks like, the clearer we can define it, the greater chance of accomplishing that we have. But that's a great question, but I don't have a standard answer for all clients, because it really just depends.
Right. It's customer by customer base, right?
Absolutely.
Let me ask you this, and this is more personal once again, that what that moment in time that I would say sort of altered your life in some way, shape, or form, and said, "Oh, Dan, I'm going to go down this road." Whatever that event happened in time. Can you share with the listeners what that moment might have been and why that was important for you?
Yes. So I grew my family and immediate and extended family were all small business owners. And I've always had in the back of my mind at some point of running a small business, but just never really went in that direction. I've always worked for Fortune 500 firms, enjoyed working there. And I worked for a company for one of the largest private utility distributors, and loved my job, loved the people, but it was owned by 3 private equity firms, and had a round of layoffs. My manager pulled me aside. She said, "Hey, you're good. Don't worry about it. This is just a part of the plan." Well, 3 months later, she was let go, and so was I. And at that point, I realized that, even with the greatest intentions, I just didn't have as much control over my future as I wish I would have. And that's when I kind of thought, hey, I really need to do something more for myself. And that kind of led me into exploring consulting, strategic marketing consulting as kind of a side gig, and then ultimately led me to RH Blake.
There's a lot of stories out there like that, right? And I'm a big entrepreneur. I love it. But I love the industrial space, and I understand exactly that is a monumental event by any stretch of the imagination. Hey, do you have kids?
2 kids. I have an 8-month-old boy and almost a 4-year-old girl. So not much sleep is happening in my house.
Boo-hoo. I think we've all been down that road to a certain extent one day. Hey, so anyway, we're going to be taking a break right now. We're talking with Dan with definitely RH Blake. Thank you very much for joining the Industrial Talk podcast. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Industrial Talk Podcast Network.
All right, the Industrial Talk podcast has a new sponsor by the name of ASG Energy. Now, this company helps private companies as well as public organizations of all sizes reduce energy costs through the use of commercial LED lighting technology and electrical services. Now, you know me. I'm a big fan of LED just because, well, first off, I don't have to change the lights, but on a commercial basis, oh my gosh, the energy savings is phenomenal. The reduction in maintenance costs, phenomenal. Return on investment, quick, it's incredible. And the environmental benefits, self-explanatory. So, you have any questions about LED commercial lighting? You need to check out my friends at ASG Energy, LLC.com. Find out more because they know what they're doing. So check them out. Hey, welcome back to the Industrial Talk podcast. So glad that you have joined us. We're talking with Dan, and he's with RH Blake. And we're gonna venture in. Well, let's put it this way. When we were off, we were talking about the next steps, and we're going to talk a little bit about the strategies, right? This is real tactical for you listeners out there, and I highly recommend that you listen. So we're going to talk about strategies. If you want to fill that funnel, if you want to brand, whatever you want to do, we're going to talk strategies. We're going to then venture into content, and then we're going to go right into leveraging digital platforms to achieve your objectives. How does that sound? Sounds good to me because I enjoy all of that. How does that sound, Dan? Did I sum it up right?
That's perfect. Yep.
Okay, so let's talk about strategy. That's the number one point that you brought out in the first segment. So we briefly touched upon meeting with the customer, trying to understand the market, digging deep. So once you have all that, you come up with a picture. What is it? What's that strategy?
Sure. So we leverage the inputs of who do you want to go after? Where should we go after them? How often? The frequency. And then really the deliverable is that marketing plan. And, if you were to ask me this question, I don't know, let's say 10 years ago, I'd say, I would help put together an annual marketing plan, 12-month marketing plan. But nowadays, that's just too long. No, with so many things changing, usually marketing plans now, you're looking at maybe 3 months max.
Oh gosh,
really,
in the digital world, it's seeing if something resonates and then moving forward and saying it didn't resonate, so let's adjust, pivot, whatever you might want to do to re-examine that effort.
Exactly, it's an incremental, continuous improvement, and it's like many of your internal processes. It's not a set it and forget it. You're always looking to improve, always looking to learn, and that's the culture that you should have in your marketing program. And so that would be the deliverable. We would take all of our learnings, put together our best foot forward, put together a mechanism for learning and improving, making sure that measurement and analytics is a part of the story.
Big time.
And then helping execute that marketing plan. So that's really the next step, following that research.
So the question I would have is if, and because I've got another company and I'm very sensitive to it, it's always about the data. It's always about, from my perspective, does the content support the strategy, and am I achieving the results that I want to achieve? And are you willing to, for your clients, pivot that marketing plan in less than 3 months if you have the data?
Absolutely. For certain customers, you pivot much quicker because you have more data points. For others, it's just maybe a longer sales cycle or maybe a more complex sale. You just don't know enough yet to say, hey, let's do something different.
Give me an example. Give me an example of something that has a shorter sales cycle versus one that has a long tail.
Sure. So if you're selling widgets in an e-commerce situation, you've got many different data points that will help you make a smarter decision. So you're looking at maybe weeks that you can make smarter decisions based off the information you're getting, versus maybe, let's say you have a complex service offering that's sold at a C level, that the sales cycle, first of all, it may take you a couple months to figure out how to get inside of that C level opportunity, and then once you do, to present the value proposition and then close the sale, that may be another year. So putting together a marketing plan that's maybe targeting that type of a sale for that type of audience, you just don't know enough until you get more data points.
For listeners out there, where do you get your data?
Well, so it really depends on what you're looking for. So, for example, with website, obviously Google Analytics. If marketing automation is definitely another recommendation to provide some great information. And then, lastly, there's nothing like asking a couple of customers or some channel partners specific questions about your marketing program. So, primary research.
So that would be a part of that strategy. Still, you're what I hear, and I think it's accurate, is having that candid conversation with your target market to understand pain points, aspirations, dreams, whatever it might be, and have that concrete information to develop and springboard that strategy into let's say a marketing plan. Is that right?
That's absolutely right. And one key component of that is understanding what are the compelling events inside that business for that customer to consider a new solution or an alternative.
And what do you mean by that? compelling events?
What inside of the organization or externally, maybe out, of the organization needs to happen for them to think about doing things differently? For example, maybe a compelling event is that they've hired a new plant manager, and every time a new plant manager comes in, they want to reevaluate whatever technology or whatever processes. Well, that hiring of a new plant manager is a compelling event if you're trying to sell them new technology. Another compelling event could be a safety related issue. If you've got a safety offering, and let's say every time a facility has a safety incident, they have to do X. Well, from a marketing perspective, that's interesting information. Or let's say you're selling ERP software, and maybe a compelling event could be that they're looking to hire more programmers of that ERP solution.
Right.
That's interesting information. So what is going on inside of that company that adds more data points for you to say, hey, if I've got that one phone call to make and I'm selling that ERP solution, who's my most likely success story?
So you get to the point, you really understand your market, you understand pain, aspirations, whatever they're thinking about, and you document it, you put it in a marketing plan. You got to get it in front of them. What strategies do you deploy? And we're venturing into the number 2 point, and that would be content, to get it in front of the prospective customer. For me, let's say I'm Acme, whatever.
Right.
What are you talking about?
So at this point, we in the process, we know where you go to get information. We know how you get educated. We know what type of information resonates with you, and that research would drive us and really lead us to where to put that content and what type of content to develop. So, for example, if you're somebody that's maybe driving around many times, well, then that content probably needs to be in a mobile-friendly format as one data point. Or maybe if you're looking for many of your questions are how to something, well, then video could be an interesting venue for you. Or if maybe you need, as part of your job, you're looking to educate others within your team, you need to make sure that the content that you're consuming is easily shareable within your organization.
But you get all that information from your deep dive into your ideal customer, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, we figure out once you get that information, what do you do with it? Why is that important for you? And then you structure it in such a way to make it more successful for them. So that aligns better with what they're looking for.
So you get this information. So once again, what I'm hearing is that the most crucial component to your process is spending the upfront time in defining that market and who that is.
That's 100% right. And many times we'll get a request of, hey, can you develop a new brochure or a new website or whatever? Our question is always why. Why are you looking to do that? And many times that answer, when you ask why, will lead them into a direction maybe they've never even considered. So I would always recommend, before you start with the deliverable, with the activity, with the output, start thinking about why are you looking to do what you're looking to do, and that may open up your eyes on which direction to go.
Well, it's interesting because I believe that is a gap. I believe that businesses in general start out by somebody coming to them, let's say, and say, I need a ditch dug. Oh, okay. And then you dig that ditch. Right. You don't talk about their ideal market. You just go out there and you dig a ditch. And then somebody says, wow, check that out. That's a heck of a ditch. I'm going to ask that person to come and dig a ditch over my place. Right. And it's that's how it's evolved. And now they're at a point where I guarantee you they haven't decided who their market is. Somebody calls on the phone, my market. And no real strategic focus on how to expand that business through a disciplined process of defining that market?
Yeah, an analogy. I don't know. I'm not much of a gardener, but I'll give you an analogy. It really is like planting a garden. So if somebody says, "Hey, I want a flower," well, how many flowers? What kind of flower? Not all flowers are good in a particular season. Not. So there are lots of different components. The environment you need to take into consideration. How often are you going to water that flower once it's in that garden? So from a marketing perspective, we're looking, I'll speak for other marketing folks. We're looking to develop a garden for you, for your business, to grow it. And just because somebody else planted whatever flower in front of their home doesn't necessarily mean it's going to live in front of your home. You need to figure out what you're looking to accomplish and what your situation is.
It's a shift in mindset. The way I look at the industrial market in general, there might be some very creative, cutting edge, I guess, companies out there that get it. But because the company or the businesses that are within the industrial space, this is, for lack of a better term, from what I can tell, a little sophisticated. And I think it's important to propel companies in that direction of quote unquote sophistication in their marketing and their channel management, whatever it might be. And you would be able to hold that hand. If they came to you and said, hey Dan, I need help. And I heard what you said, and I need your help.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to think that I could help, or maybe point them in the right direction, if I can't.
Right.
But absolutely, it is a change in thinking. It's a change in thinking about your business, and really, it's a change in thinking about your customers, because really, that's what's driving all of this. Is your customers aren't how they used to.
Right.
They aren't researching how they used to, and if you're still marketing to them in the way that they were buying 10, 15 years ago, you're missing a huge opportunity. And the companies that aren't aligning with how their customers are buying, I don't know how many examples we need to see of huge companies going out of business because they don't understand their customers.
Yeah, that's spot on, my friend. We're going to take a break right now. I'm talking to Dan R.H. Blake. I think we're getting into some nitty gritty. If you haven't realized yet, this is an important topic for you business owners out there, and quite frankly, anybody that has aspirations to be able to do bigger and better things within the industrial space. So hang tight. We're going to talk a little bit more on the other side, and then we're going to wrap it up. So thank you very much for joining the Industrial Talk podcast. We'll be right back. Hey, once again, this is Scott McKenzie with Industrial Talk. If you like what you're listening to, please feel free to sign up for the free podcast as well as the blogs. I'll try to keep it all relevant to your business and hopefully be able to provide some insight into what we do at Industrial Talk and what you do as a professional. Hope to see you soon. Thank you. All right, welcome back to the Industrial Talk podcast. Thank you again for joining the Industrial Talk podcast. And I want to just really extend my appreciation to Dan. Thank you very much for joining once again. Now, in our break, we talked about one last element, and that element is digital. So what we've done is we've created the strategy, and we recognize the importance of really digging deep into your target market. And then we started talking about how you align that strategy with content that hits that target market. And then the last point was digital. Can you expand upon that a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, we can just all look inside ourselves. What's the first thing that many times we do when we need to figure something out is you go online, you ask Google. All roads now lead to the website, whether or not we like it. And making your website really a business function for you, almost a lead, not necessarily a lead generator, but a complete function in itself that helps you accomplish your goals, I think is a differentiator for businesses. So whether or not you're looking to make it easier for your distributors to buy from you, if that's going to help your business, whether or not you're looking to drive leads, whether or not you're looking to just position yourself differently, following a sales meeting that, nowadays, anytime you meet with the salesperson, what's the first thing you do? You go on their website and say, hey, is this the person that actually was in front of me, to confirm?
Geez, I heard a stat. It was like 84% of your contacts pull you up on Google.
Yep.
It's like right off the bat. That's amazing.
It just, whatever you're looking to accomplish with your business, your website needs to support that. So that's a shift in thinking again, because a website, it's not a brochure. It needs to help grow your business, however, in whichever direction you're looking for it to help you grow. And so websites, a key piece of the digital aspect. And then also, as far as how folks are buying. So search engine optimization, obviously critical. That's a key piece of digital, making sure that you appear highly in those search results.
What my big problem is? There's a guy that sang a song out of San Francisco. His name was Scott McKenzie, and I can never get past him. Now, he's passed away, but he's had one song, Are You Going to San Francisco? And I can't get past him. How's that?
How's your voice? Can you sing anything?
No, not like that. That's for sure. But I understand what you're trying to say, and that's important. And my hair bristles when and I understand it's. I look at all of these platforms that we have available, and the cost is nominal relative to the advantage or benefit that you can gain from it. And like we use, I'll post out on LinkedIn, and I've got a YouTube channel, and I've got a Twitter, and so on and so forth. I look at those as digital marketing platforms as opposed to social. They're part of my strategic business direction.
Yeah, those platforms in general are now pay to play. The days of where you put out, a post and many people see it, I think are long gone. Or if not, they will be shortly. Those companies need to make money. So you paid strategy. If once you figured out, hey, this is the channel that I think will resonate best with my audience, paid needs to be a part of it, because organic. Oh yeah. I mean, organic is diminishing, by the day.
And in a couple of those platforms, pennies on the dollar for the attention that you can achieve if you can define that market is pretty powerful.
And they have so much information and data at their fingertips that once you give them that target persona of who you're going after, they'll do the heavy lifting, and they'll find more people like that. Yeah. So, obviously every business is different. Some businesses know exactly who they're going after. They don't need that help. But for others, that could help tremendously.
Oh, absolutely. If you're trying to expand your business beyond the confines of the walls that you have today, you're going to have to be able to consider and just accept the fact that you kind of come up with a strategy that is digitally based. It's just going to have to happen. Most definitely.
Absolutely.
So before we wrap this interview up, I got a couple of questions to ask you. Sure. For our listeners out there, what book do you recommend?
So there's a book I recently read, Killer Marketing, and it helps you see that your list of contacts it isn't just a list of contacts for your business. It makes you think about how else to leverage those contacts. One example is there's a Fortune 500 welding company that is developing a magazine focused on their target audience. So they're known for manufacturing welding supplies, but they developed a whole different communication channel to that audience. And now that magazine is turning a profit for them. It pays for their whole marketing program like that. So it just makes you think, how else can you provide value to those email contacts outside of the widget that you're looking to sell them?
The other question I have is things are changing rapidly. How do you stay current outside of the obvious and reading? How do you stay ahead of the curve? Because for me personally, it becomes it's a challenge because things change so fast.
That's a great point. That is very hard to do. I try to just follow, meaning on social media or whether it's blogs, but smart people, people that I recognize, hey, this person is ahead of their time. And as soon as something inside of me that maybe clicks and says, hey, they're onto something, I try to follow them and continue to get their information. So Scott, you're obviously, top of my list.
Hey, I always like stealing genius because I'm not one, but there are geniuses out there and I can get that information. So I'll steal it. And then one last parting shot for the listeners. What is that recommendation that you need to make sure the listeners hear?
Call 5 customers and promise them you're not going to sell them anything. And maybe if it's not you calling, have somebody else call them and just hear what they're up to, what's going on in their business. It will help you grow your business. I guarantee it.
And ask that 5 why. Just say why. So that's fantastic. All right, man. I liked the interview quite a bit. Once again, Dan, thank you very much. I know that you're a busy guy, and we had some technical problems in the beginning, but that's pretty much par for the course with me. But here's Dan Konstantinovsky. Hang tight. Let me get it again because I nailed it in the beginning.
You got it right first time.
Okay, thank you. With R.H. Blake. He's all the way up in Cleveland. My gosh. Technology. Right. What a fantastic thing. So, once again, thank you very much, and thank you for sharing your wisdom to our listeners. I appreciate that.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes. Have a great day. We'll stick to the Industrial Talk podcast. We'll be right back on the other side. Thank you very much.
You're listening to the Industrial Talk Podcast Network.
All right, let's put this one in the can, you industrial professionals, you juggernauts out there that are just passionate about your craft. Thank you very much to Dan Konstantinovsky, Konstantinovsky. He's with R.H. Blake. He knows his stuff. He's out there on LinkedIn. Go, check him out. He is pretty responsive. So if you want to get a hold of him, you want to know a little bit about what he does, find him out there. And also, if you need to get a hold of me, industrialtalk.com, go out there. I've got a YouTube page. Get out there, Industrial Talk, Facebook, Instagram. I'm even on Twitter. Get on out there if you need to get a hold of me. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please let me know, because I'm truly passionate about this industrial lifestyle, and I'm passionate about you, and I'm passionate about being able to provide the content that you need to better your career. And so I really appreciate all the people who have been on this interview or on the Industrial Talk podcast and sharing all that wisdom. And I truly appreciate you listeners out there. Stay tuned because we're going to have some great interviews. I've got a bunch sort of keyed up and ready to go. So it only gets better, and thank you. So be safe out there. We'll talk next week. Oh, no. Next week I'm going to be in Florida doing the Reliability Radio. So, it's out there too as well. So take care. Be safe. Talk to you later.